What's going on, guys? Nathan back with Western Reviews, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Eonfit E3 all-in-one rack with a Smith machine that I made some modifications to, but we'll go over that a little bit later into the review. You can kind of think of the E3 as a compact, budget-friendly alternative to the GetRx Tornado Smith rack, and it combines a full power rack, full Smith machine, and a full functional trainer all into a slim, compact unit. And yes, the arms do adjust. So you can use the chapters down below to jump around if you have specific pieces of information that you want to get over to. But the TLDR for this is going to be that it's extremely versatile and compact, and it's plenty sturdy for what us average home gym users need. But it's not without its minor trade-offs. So you'll have to deal with plate loading your machine, which I personally don't find a big deal, but some people might. And there's originally a lack of adjustment on the actual arm itself. And I'll go over a solution that I found for that later. But if you like this video or you're excited for it, go ahead and drop me a subscription down below. I would greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into the full review. We're gonna kind of start off this review with what this is and what it's not. So what it is an all-in-one system. So you have your full power rack, you have your full functional trainer, and you have your integrated Smith machine as well. So this is gonna be for your typical home gym user who's looking for something with max versatility, something super compact, but something that's also super cheap, right? So someone who's not living in the Reps, the Rogues, the even GetRx in some cases of the world. So this is I'd say just as functional and high operating alternative to those, but at the price point of $800. Now what this rack is not is an extremely overbuilt, over-engineered, high gauge steel piece of kit, right? So for the people who like anything that's super overbuilt like Rogue, or the people that like American Made for that matter, or the people that are powerlifters, this probably isn't gonna be for you. The rack itself stands at around 85 inches tall and around 71 inches wide, with its widest point being the integrated Smith machine. Now depth is going to be anywhere from 63 to 69 inches depending on the configuration of your arm here itself. Now in order to use this, you're going to need at least a 7-foot high ceiling, but for you basement dwellers who are trying to fit this in there, you're going to need at least 8, or else you're going to top out here and hit your head whenever you're doing your pull-ups, which wouldn't be ideal. As far as the upright is concerned, we have 2x2 tubing that's 14 gauge steel. So it's not commercial, but it is enough for those just average gym users, I think. Now every 5 holes, we do have laser cut numbering on the side here, but no viewing window on the actual sliding trolley itself here to be able to see that. But you can kind of just guesstimate based on where you're at with those laser cut numbers. So I don't think that's that big of a deal. Now the holes themselves are 1 inch on the front, and on the side is so small that I don't even know what that actually is. So as far as compatibility for attachments goes, you're really only working with this front hole here with that 1 inch hole. Now as far as the actual ratings are concerned, the front of the uprights are going to support up to 500 pounds. The trolley will support up to 350 pounds, and the Smith machine will support up to 400 pounds. So all of this isn't exactly commercial or made for the power lifter, but for the average gym user like me, it's plenty. Now the functional trainer portion is plate loaded, right? And you know, that is kind of a drawback, but this is a budget machine, so it's going to be plate loaded. But something that I like about it is that there's not a loading point on each side. So although you're losing the ability to say you're feeling the exact same weight on both sides during your flies, your curls, whatever split movements you're doing, it reduces the horns that you have to load by 2. Now you can load them super easily and not have to worry about getting all 4 sides loaded perfectly. Now in the future, what I do hope they do is something similar to what Major Fitness did with their PLM03, and that's they released an upgrade option to a stack. So everything stays the same, but they integrated an upgraded stack option so that you can go selectorize with this unit in the future as an add-on if you wanted, but we're just not there yet. Now, as far as what's actually included with the rack, it actually comes with a fair bit of attachments. So it comes with your standard setup for your power rack, so your J-hooks, your long spotter arms, and I did end up replacing the spotter arms for these, and I will show you why here later on, but these are just spotter arms that have 1-inch holes in them. Now you also get a lat pull down bar that has 3 connection points. You get the adjustable pivoting cable arms included. You get the Smith machine as an inclusion there as well. You also get 2 hand straps. You get dip bars, you get a landmine attachment, you get a low row foot plate, right? So all the bases are covered pretty well with this thing. Now, because so much is included, the actual quality of them isn't the greatest, but I think that those that are gonna be looking to purchase this, they're gonna be plenty strong enough for what you need, and you can always upgrade and swap them out as you go on. This does also come with 2 weight horns that are completely bolted in and aren't going anywhere. I wish it came with more. 2 isn't gonna do the trick for most of us. Now the last thing that's included is this multi-grip pull-up bar. So you have multiple fixed distances that you can use this with. I got these 1-inch bike handles to put on here for additional extra grip, because before that it was just the bare metal. And lastly is a little ring for you to slip in for any banded pull-ups or anything of that nature. Now, speaking to the assembly of the actual unit itself, I'd say it was generally easy. You know, most of the posts just connect up the same any power rack would. The only thing that I would say was pretty annoying was the actual Smith machine and the power rack functional trainer were 2 separate manuals. So I had put all this together only to realize later on I had to take it apart to get this post back in here in order to set up the Smith machine as well. So that wasn't the greatest. But other than that, the only, I guess, minor drawback to the building and the assembly was this cable is a fixed length and it's not tailored specifically to the unit. So you do have to play with the actual length of it by adding carabiners or chains in order for it to get the set distance and the actual tension that you need on the cables themselves. Now, regarding adjustability, that's where I think the E3 really shines. So we have 18 holes going up our upright for a very wide range of options there. Now, one drawback is the top hole. It's kind of misdesigned there. So you'll see that although there's 18 holes, only 17 of them are actually usable. Now, regarding this functional trainer here, you can see that we have the option to completely rotate these around these holes here. So essentially the widest point, you can have a very deep stretch in something like a chest fly or something like that. Now, what's nice about this is you can also have the option to have the arm further out from the rack. So if you're doing cable-like movements, you can get directly above the cable there. Or if you're doing tricep extensions, you can go ahead and pull the unit out a little bit and get it a little bit more above your head. They also have great cable travel. So well, how about I don't have 50 pounds on it, huh? Anyways, as I was saying, the cable travel on these, you're not gonna run out of anything. That's where you top out. So this is how much cable travel you have. I mean, that's just ridiculous. If you need more than that, then I don't know what to tell you. Something else worth mentioning is that there is a considerable amount of play in here due to all the moving parts. But whenever you actually start using the actual weight, you could see that it locks up and it doesn't have any play during the movement. Ever since I've got this, I've actually been fully modifying what the standard is here for the base rack. So for starters, instead of the big bulky plastic screw pin, I changed this to just a spring plunger so that I could just pull this out and then easily slide it up and down. No dealing with that finicky plastic. And to change the actual distance out from the rack, I used that same pin there. Now for the adjustments for what angle this is sitting at, I changed this to a locking spring plunger so you can have it be fully free motion during a movement, but essentially it performs the same function, locks it in. But I think, again, you don't have to worry about the difficult plastic here. It's super easy to adjust in that sense. You just adjust it and let it go. Now, the last thing worth mentioning here is the fact that I extended this with a very small carabiner and with a swivel shackle. So now whenever I want to use my attachments, I just pop them on, pull this, pop them off, and I'm good to go to easily swap. As I mentioned before, the arm itself isn't labeled. So I stickered the whole rotary dial and marked with the silver Sharpie, and that's how I kind of keep track of the angle of the arm. And then for how far out the arm is, I dotted here. Now you can kind of see a full setup of what this all looks like in this photo. And for example, in this, it would be 10A ... Now the bars or the catches for the Smith machine are actually fully adjustable and up to you to set up. So it's nice in that it keeps the system very compact. You know, it doesn't extend an extra length out there for the catches for the integrated Smith machine. But a drawback of that is that every time you want to use the Smith machine, you do have to feed this through and put the lock mechanism on there to secure it in. So you have to know exactly where to place these, and anytime you want to use the functional trainer, you do have to take them off. So it's a blessing and a curse. I don't really use the Smith machine that much, so it doesn't really bother me any, but something to keep in mind if you're looking into the system. Getting into the actual use of this machine, speaking specifically to its purpose for a power rack, I think it does a good job there. You know, there's not much ways to innovate in that space, so I think it functions as intended. But moving over to the Smith bar and how that feels with exercises. So the bar itself is 30 pounds and it has a pretty passive knurl on it, but I do think that it feels pretty good in the hand, and the actual movement itself feels pretty good. So any pressing movements like a chest press or an overhead press is gonna feel really good with this unit. Now, something that I like is that at the very top, and I'll drop a photo of this here, is that they made the actual rod long enough to catch the safety bar. That way it can store high up and, you know, without having to worry about hitting your head. I have plenty of clearance here. Now, the range of motion itself on the Smith machine is really good. So if I drop it down to its lowest point, this is where it is. So it falls below the middle of my shin, and you're able to get really good depth there if you're trying to do any deadlifts or any RDLs and things of that nature. Now the actual catches themselves just kind of spin out here and hook and set onto whatever position you have. So I mentioned earlier that you have to add and remove pins at specific heights in order to use the Smith machine, and it's no different for the stopper. Now, the blessing and the curse of that good range of motion of the Smith machine is that it's good because you have a greater range of motion, but there's no spring on it, right? So you don't have that added height, but dropping this from a far height, it's probably not going to be a good idea. Something else worth mentioning is that if you plan to use the Smith machine, even if you have a 2.5 pound plate on here, it runs right into the actual arm itself. So keep in mind that whenever you're using this, that the arms will actually have to be all the way at the top, or you can add a spacer so that no matter what, it won't run into your trolley here or your arm. I did also want to show that there is a little bit of lateral deflection in the actual Smith machine itself, right? It's not a terrible amount, but it's just barely enough to notice it, so I thought it was worth pointing out. That brings us to what I personally think what sets the E3 apart, and that being these adjustable pivot arms. So there's no other way to say it other than these things are fucking awesome. Your creativity is going to be your limitation as far as what you're able to use these for, because you can go in every direction and because you can change how far out it is from the rack. Now the actual feeling of them, because of all the aluminum pulleys in here, I have the version that has the aluminum pulley swapped. For a plate-loaded functional trainer, I think it feels seriously good. You know, no complaints there, especially for the price. But you can change these arms to something super high up like this to do any pull movement. So your lat pull downs, your rope pull downs, things of that nature. Your rope pullovers, for example. I mentioned this before, but you can also open these up to get a really deep stretch in your chest flies. And if you haven't tried doing a chest fly with the preacher bench, I definitely recommend it. It feels great and allows you to open up all the way. But you can also spin them all the way in to do your chest supported rows on your bench, or you could try what I did. I mentioned earlier that I used a safety spotter with 1-inch holes, and I got a solid steel rod to feed through that, and I used that as a foothold for stability for my low row, so that I can do a 1-1 row instead of a 1-2 row, which are what these functional trainers are. I also use that same stability to hold my knees in whenever I'm doing any lat pull downs as well. So it all feels fantastic. These things are seriously amazing. Now, compared to the more expensive alternatives like Rep, Rogue, Force USA, Get RX, I think the Eonfit E3 all-in-one and Smith machine really holds its own here. So you're not gonna get the super high quality fit and finish. You're not gonna get the super high weight rating or anything like that. But with that said, it's $800, so it's a fraction of the price. So it competes against everything as far as the actual utility goes and the adjustability. And I think that that's what's most important in the home gym space. So if you're an ultra heavy lifter or you want something that's just super commercial, super overbuilt, this isn't gonna be for you, but for 90% of people, this is gonna be more than enough and it's gonna cover all the bases. All right, that's gonna do it for the review of the Eonfit all-in-one functional trainer, power rack, and Smith machine. As always, if you have any questions, go and drop them down below and I'll get to them as quick as I can. And if you'd like to support the channel, please subscribe and like the video as it helps me out a lot. With all that said, I will catch you in the next one. See ya.